Las cosas que necesito en la vida ya están aquí. Las cosas que necesito en la vida ya están aquí. I am free, free as a bird now, with my feathered wings. I am free, free as a bird now, with my feathered wings.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Camino Cafe. I am so happy to have you back here with us. And today I have another great pilgrim with me, but I want to mention a couple of things before we get started. I would love it if you would subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way you never miss a show. And also that helps our show get promoted to other people when they're looking up things about the Camino. Also, I would love a thumbs up or a comment because no matter who I'm interviewing, it's always nice to, have a thumbs up about your video or to hear from fellow pilgrims is always wonderful. And if you're listening on Apple, if you would be willing to do a review, I would so appreciate it. And leave your comments there and also subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes. So I am today, we got our new mic. So thanks again to Allison and John. I am loving it. And I just can't believe how the Camino continues to provide long after I walked. So today I have Molly Lord with me, and Molly and I became acquainted with me after watching a couple of our shows. And so I like I've said many times to all of you is that I really do respond to all the comments, all the emails, anything that comes along, because, that's what I love doing is talking to pilgrims. So Molly reached out, we realized we have some things in common, and, we're like, hey, you should come on and chat at the Camino Cafe. So Molly, welcome. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you for the invitation.
Oh, you're quite welcome. So Molly, tell everyone where you are in the world today.
I am in Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Welcome, welcome. Well, we have a lot of folks out in Colorado that listen to the show, so
yeah,
glad to have you here. And Molly, you walked in May of 2019, so I walked a couple of months after you. Mm-hmm. But so we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about some of your other interests when you're not walking, but mostly we'll be talking about the Camino and your experiences. So I think our viewers, we've been chatting. Well, we were only supposed to chat for a few minutes before the show started, but we've been talking for about an hour. So I wish we'd had some of that recorded because it was some good stuff, but we'll try to hit some of those things. So okay. Molly, let's talk a little bit about in your professional life when you're not busy being a pilgrim. You have a really interesting career. I was checking out your website, and I'll share the link in the show notes. But you kind of bring together two of my favorite things, which is music and the study of archetypes. Right. So I just wondered if you could describe to viewers and watchers what your job is and what you do with all that.
Yeah, if anyone had ever told me I'd be doing this at this point, I never would have believed it, because it was triggered by when I was writing a screenplay. I write screenplays.
Yeah.
And I realized I was reading a book on archetypes while writing a screenplay. And one day I realized, oh, I get it. My characters are living out these archetypes, and my screenplay was about music and how music impacted these characters' lives over 40 years. And I just realized, wow, it's the archetype that's active in our psyche that reaches for the music we're in the mood for. So if your victim archetype is activated, or your warrior, if you're going to clean out the garage, if you're like, today's the day, it's going to happen, you're probably not going to put on Josh Groban. Right. You're going to put on something powerful that gets you fired up, because your warrior archetype has been activated and it wants something that resonates at that frequency. Get her done kind of energy. When we're in return to innocence, which is this happy-go-lucky archetype of things, we look at life and go, it can be good, it's bad, it's up, it's down, it's hard, it's easy, but it's a pretty good life. When you can say that in the middle of chaos or in the middle of your Camino, you have blisters, but you can go, oh my God, this is amazing. That's your return to innocence. And we're not going to want to listen to a Whitney Houston or something that lowers our frequency. Our archetype is going to push play on something that matches it. Okay, so archetypes give voice to the archetype, or music gives voice to the archetype that's active in the moment. But also, have you ever noticed you have a radio on, or you have a shuffling playlist, and you're in a great space and a sad song or something that reminds you of, and your energy just goes down. So music can evoke another archetype that wasn't active to start with. So it works both ways. So what my work does is we look at people's hero's journey, which is when the proverbial stuff hits the fan in our life and it kicks in, and it can be good stuff. It can be a big move, but moves can create havoc, or a surprise, a letdown, something that felt like went terribly wrong and we feel victimized by it. It kicks in a journey, and different archetypes come in at different stages of that journey. At first, we're victimized. We feel either kicked to the curb, let down, disappointed, disillusioned, something that makes us say, wow, I didn't see that coming, right? Well, our wanderer usually then steps in and kicks in research, or looking at, so what can I do about this? And so our wanderer explorer says, well, I have this idea, and I could talk to that person. And then our warrior kicks in as we go into the ordeal of it all, and which is called where part of us dies. Our warrior is kicking in to put our wanderer's plan into action. And that can last a month, it can last a year, it can, however long our warrior says, I'm going to get this handled. When I work with a lot of cancer survivors in my workshops. So when they get diagnosed, when they get to the warrior stage, they're in treatment and they're doing all the alternative stuff and looking at the emotional cause, and that's warrior. And then we slide out of that and go to the ultras, which is the part of our psyche that is tired. The warrior wore us out. Yeah. And we feel this love in our heart for everyone else that is going through this, but we also have a love for ourselves for having handled the journey to date. So the ultras can be external or internal. And then our return to innocence, it slides into this place of, wow, when we come out on the other side with the elixir, we return to our kingdom with a sense of, I made it through. And our return to innocence just wants to have fun again. It wants relief. It wants to celebrate that we don't have the weight of the journey like we did. And then our magician is the part of our psyche that looks over the game board of our life, looks down on it, and sees who all the players were. This illness happened because of that. That injury happened because of this. And this is the gift from it. And this person was only supposed to be here for so long. But then this person came along. Oh, I see how it all connects. So our magician gets an overview of our life and detaches enough to see the gift in it. And that's the hero's journey that we look at in my workshops. So how do you show up as a victim? Are you a pity party victim? It's because it's a real honest dialogue.
Yeah,
are you a party victim? Or are you one that operates at the higher end that says, this really sucks, but I'm going to make it through because I always do? Or are you somewhere in between? And then, so we spend time on that. And then we look at the music that plays in. When we're in that state of mind, what makes us feel better? Sometimes you need a song that resonates with this sucks. Sometimes you just do.
Let me jump in. I was just thinking, I just have to ask, when you were walking then, did you have playlists for each one of these archetypes, or how did you listen to music on your Camino? I guess that's the first question.
Well, I left saying that I was not, or I was packing saying, no, I want to hear what the Camino has to tell me. I'm not going to have earbuds in. What's funny is an hour before I left, I'm so nervous. I have an injury again. I injured myself a week before, had a pulled hamstring. No. And I'm crawling around the house. My friends are going, oh my God, I can't believe you're going to Spain like this. And I said, I have to go upstairs one more time. And I'm dragging my legs like Igor from the Hunchback of Notre Dame, right? I'm dragging myself up the stuff. And they said, what could be so important to go back up? I said, I was just told to do something. And this little voice said, grab a couple songs, put it on your phone, because I never use my phone for music. Okay. I use other things. I'm like, okay. And I went and grabbed 10 that intuitively.
Wow.
And I threw them on, and I didn't know if I'd ever listen to them. And I left. And what really surprised me on the Camino, well, here's what I know about music, and we all do. Music is a mathematical frequency, vibration, just like everything we touch is, right? I mean, we learn that in science, and we don't want to believe it in high school, but everything is vibrating molecules. And so is music. And when it goes in our body, it vibrates certain organs based on what its frequency is, and it vibrates certain chemicals in our brain. And we speak music all the time. Like we say things like, I just want my life to be in harmony, right? We use the word harmony.
Yeah.
Well, harmony really is where everything is flowing in a way that's copacetic, right? We're good. Harmony is I'm good, right? When we want to be in good health, or when we're in good health, we say we're in sound health. I mean, we use these words all the time.
Me too. I never thought about it.
It has everything to do with frequency. Or you walk in a room and go, oh, there's weird vibes in here.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
We're reading people, we're feeling their energy, and we use these musical terms. So music has a huge role from the dawn of humankind, has played a role in our balance.
Yeah.
So from what I had heard, I thought, I think the Camino has its own frequency, and I think I want to tune into that and not be listening to music.
Right.
Well, I ended up running into, why did I think I could do the Camino? It's what I do for a living. Of course, music showed up, but it was these songs I had. I knew when I was supposed to listen to them, and I knew why I chose the ones I did. So that was fun. But, you walk along, you find yourself humming. I don't know if you ever did that.
Yep.
And I'd noticed what I was humming. This one day I was humming Hotel California. I'm a big Eagles fan. And I'm thinking you can sign up, or what is it? You can sign out anytime you want, but you can never leave. And it was at a time when I thought, I don't think the Camino will ever leave. Whatever it's doing to me, it will never leave.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'm humming this song. I thought, oh, that's cool. That's cool. And that happened a lot. Or someone would go by with, when you get to Saria and they start coming with the boom boxes, you think, oh my God, re-entry. I remember there was this group of high school girls, and I tried to distance myself because they had not a big boom box like some people had, but they had a player. And as I got closer, I hear this, they're singing, these boots are made for walking.
Oh, that's great.
And so I catch up to them and I said, girls, are you aware that this was like a song when I was like 12 years old? And they're like, no way. They're thinking it's a new song, right? And so I was one of the obnoxious ones walking along singing it they kept replaying it. So of course, what I realized, the more music, like I walked into a cafe, it was right before the iron statues. It was
Yes.
the town right before you finished the climb.
Okay.
And we were so hungry and so wet, and it was so windy and cold, and we just wanted something hot. And the town looked deserted. And I thought, there's got to be something. And we opened this wooden door. I always loved it, what was behind these big wooden doors, because there was no neon sign. And the smell of soup hit us. And I hear Cat Stevens' song, The Wind, which was one of the songs on my list.
Oh, wow.
We're in this town at the top of a mountain in a door we just guessed. And I walk in, and it's Cat Stevens playing one of my favorite songs. And it just, every time it happened, I just felt like it was a little voice in my head saying, keep going, keep going. You're doing good. Just keep going, you know? So the music showed up when it was supposed to. And that's how music ended up on my Camino. You know, I look at music as like we're this orchestra. Our body is this amazing orchestra. And, you know, what if the violin player loses its sheet music inside us? You know, pretty soon it's out of tune, and pretty soon the whole string section is out of tune, and then our whole orchestra is out of tune. And I think I left for the Camino without my sheet music, and I felt like it gave it back.
Oh,
I felt like it gave my violin player its sheet music back. And my whole life is metaphor. That's, I think, in Hero's Journey and metaphor and Joseph Campbell.
yes.
So to me, it's like my life's an orchestra, and whenever it's out of tune, I have to just stop and say, where's the sheet music? Who took it? Who did you give it to? Or, you know?
Yeah.
So
Wow.
that's what the Camino did for me, was brought the harmony back and reminded me how to find it when I lose it. Even though my career is helping people figure out the soundtrack of their life and why it matters, sometimes I was losing track of my own harmony. And,
Oh, wow, that is so powerful.
yeah, it's so.
Yeah, we don't have time to get into mine, but music, I think, plays a really important role for your stories, brings back some really good memories, as well as, you know, these really magical moments that I bet a lot of viewers and listeners are experiencing right now, like I am. How did you first hear about the Camino? Like, you know, how did it come to be that you were going to go take this walk?
A man that I was seeing, Patrick, told me about it.
Okay.
And I remember the night he told me, I dismissed it so fast, not because it didn't interest me, but it scared the hell out of me. I had injuries for 40 years, an incident that happened years ago. And it was a back and a knee injury. And so when he mentioned 500 miles, like, nope, can't, nope, next subject. Because I used to be, up until about 6 years ago, I was able to override those injuries and keep them just under the radar. And I kayaked and hiked and mountain biked but boy, like about 6 years ago, they all raised their ugly heads. And what had happened is I was attacked in college and beaten up.
Oh my goodness.
It was a definitely rape attempt, but someone heard me scream and they saved my life. Angels at a young age.
Wow.
And though through the years, through really good counseling and the PTSD of it, the only thing that lasted was a sleep disorder for about 25 years. And this back and knee injury. My knee dislocated during the struggle, and I injured a disc. And but the event itself was, I mean, I can tell you now, like, it's a chocolate chip cookie recipe. You know, it's about that important to me. It just doesn't matter.
Right.
I've done all my work on it, but the injuries, my body remembered.
Mm.
And no matter what I did, they never really left. So after Patrick told me about it, our relationship ended, and we stayed friends. And every once in a while, he'd bring up the Camino. Well, one winter, snowshoeing, I fell snowshoeing on this icy patch, and everyone fell on top of me. And I tore a ligament in
Mm.
my knee and in the ankle of my other leg. And I thought, you've got to be kidding me. Well, there's a saying in my family, you have to go, that Molly, you have to make that sound, that Molly, she's an accident waiting to happen. And I was a little more out there than my sisters. I have 3 sisters, took more risks, was accident prone. I have an ankle that turns easily because my arches are so high. If you want to know, that's my excuse. I use my whole life. And but my mom just, it wasn't mean and it wasn't critical, but she would always warn me, be careful, you know you're an accident waiting to happen.
Mm.
Well, you get that planted in you long enough that I remember when this attack happened, I didn't call home to tell her it happened in my college town, because I thought it just feeds that monster of,
Mm.
you know, you're an accident waiting to happen. But I remember then I only got conscious for a few days where I went, could I be fulfilling this prophecy? I went, no, I didn't understand all that. So it went underground. And then in 1985, this whole accident, this is all leading to why I had to do the Camino. I was a teacher.
Okay.
And I moved to Colorado, and that's when this accident waiting to happen kind of dissolved. I mean, I certainly still had my injuries, but I found out about deep tissue work and chiropractic and cranial sacral, and I was doing great. And it's just a thing of the past, that belief.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I heard about NASA's Teacher in Space program, and it just hit me. This baby's mine.
Mm.
I want to do that. So I applied. And it was a long essay process, 10 essays you had to answer. And I got the first letter making the first level.
Wow.
I called home. Big mistake. I called home. So excited. Like, oh my God, this is my dream. And my dad's like, oh, honey, I'm so excited. This is great. And how does it work? And I hear my mom say nothing, like dead silence. I thought, here it comes. She said, you can't do this.
Oh,
You can't do this. Molly, you know you're an accident waiting to happen. This is dangerous. I'm like, can't you be happy for me? Like, that was so in the past for me. Well, then when I got the next letter saying I had made the next level, I was foolish enough to call home again. And Dad's like, oh, honey, I'm so proud of you. This is exciting. Even if he was worried, that's what he said. My mother, withdraw your name right now.
Oh, no.
You can't do this to me, she said. You can't do this to me. And my mom is a kind woman. She just was worried. Well, we had the biggest fight ever over this. Like, I was not going to live out her fears anymore. I wasn't going to buy into it. Well, you see where this is going.
Yes.
I didn't make the next cut, and I really thought God and NASA had made a big mistake.
Oh, yeah.
My mom was relieved. Well, we were watching the launch early that morning here in Colorado, and you know what happened with the Challenger. It exploded.
Wow, Molly.
And the school, everyone knew I had wanted to be Krista McAuliffe, right?
Right.
So they had superimposed my picture on all the Krista McAuliffe posters around, in her helmet.
Wow.
So it was a kind of a fun joke at school of Molly in space. It was back when the Muppets, their pigs in space thing. It was like Molly in space. So when this happened, we're all just staring, going, what just happened? And while we're processing that something horrible had just happened, I hear announced over the PA system, Molly Souders, you have a long distance phone call in the office. Guess who? It was my mom. And it was an I told you so call.
Oh my.
But not, she was just terrified for me.
So
My mom was not a mean, she was just afraid of life.
Yeah,
And this was the ultimate. And I slammed the phone down, hung up on her after a few choice words and sobbed because I thought she was right. She's right. I'm an accident waiting to happen. I make bad choices. Blah, 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 blah. They called me a sub, said, why don't you go home? Good idea. And that whole night I thought, I'm an accident waiting to happen. Damn, she won. She won the biggest one of my life. So the next day I came back to school and we had a snowstorm and they let us go early and I stayed because I had missed the day before. And by the time I got to the interstate, I saw how bad the storm was. Well, I ended up in a 60-car pileup.
Wow.
And that's how fast I manifested that I'm an accident waiting to happen. And that terrified me. You know, do I think I caused that accident? Of course not. I was car number 7. But do I think when we think something and our emotions match it, that we can create a victim story? You bet. And I was in the middle of an ugly one. Things were blowing up, things were crashing, So it just started years of some deep spiritual work to get to the bottom of this. I'm an accident waiting to happen. So fast forward to, I told you I tore these ligaments in my knee and my ankle. I had tickets to go see my sister back east and I wasn't going to go. And she said, no, come on crutches. Well, you know, we were going to go sailing. They're big sailors. And she said, you'll just be a queen on the front of the bow, you know? Right. So I went home and sure enough, we went out sailing and I'm sitting on the bow. My crutches are off to the side. I have braces. I took the braces off, but, you know, I kind of look like the centerfold for, you know, Orthopedic Monthly or something. And, you know, and I'm thinking the whole accident thing, right? And so we're sailing and we are going by these beaches. There's a beautiful area on Lake Erie with these 10 beaches that come out on a peninsula. And we sailed by the beach where I was attacked.
Oh my.
I hadn't been back there 40 years.
Oh my goodness.
And it didn't stir anything emotional too much. It was kind of shocking to see it and remember. But what hit me is I'm sitting here with the same darn injuries as what happened that day. And I still haven't fixed it. And it's time. It's time. So I said to myself, I need a carrot to get me to rehab this and rehab it right. And a low voice said, you're going to walk the Camino.
No, really?
I said, oh, no, I'm not. Oh, no, anything but that. And I, no, I think you are. It was, I know it was my intuition, the same one that said, get the music, you know?
Yeah.
And I said, no. I said, can we discuss this when we get back to Colorado? And so sure enough, I came back, got in my front door, threw my crutches off to the side, called my best friend in Florida. She was a college roommate. We had been like sisters for 40 years. And called her and said, you won't believe what just happened on my trip. You know, I'm on the crutches and I'm on the boat and I'm on the bow and we drive by the beach where I was attacked and I realized I have the same injuries and this little voice said, you're going to do the Camino and I don't want to do the Camino. And she's like, oh, I wouldn't do the Camino either. And I, good. I need to hear that. And so she said, she asked me 3 important questions. I said, you know what? I'm going to hang up. I'm going to take a couple days, take my journal, and I'm going to get back to you in a couple days. So during that time, I examined why I would do the Camino, why I wouldn't, and I was getting ready to call her to say, I'm going to do regular rehab. I'm not going to go walk 500 miles and ruin my body even more.
Right.
And I heard this one final question in my head, and it said, what if you do all this and it's too little too late? I went, oh, that can't be. I have too much living to do. I can't be too late. Don't say that. And I thought, I need some serious carrot. And I called Linda and said, I'm doing the Camino. And I'm doing it alone. She's like, oh my God.
Well, that's one of the most powerful stories I've heard about what planted the seed for you. And I love how long you worked on this. And first off, I just want to say congratulations on all the work that you've done during your journey, and for the courage that it took for you to make that first step on the Camino.
Well, what's amazing, Linda, my friend that I called, my sister. So my friend Michael died a week later. He was one of my closest friends. We knew he had emphysema, but he died much earlier of a heart attack. So that took my breath away. And I called Linda about that, and we talked. A week later, Linda died.
Oh, wow.
An aneurysm, gone like that. Her husband called and said, are you sitting down? So I gave up on the Camino after that. I said, I'm not going. F you.
Right.
F you, God.
There's another test.
Oh, but it took about 2 months before that grief kind of settled. I spoke at both of their services and heard myself what I learned from both of those closest friends who died 10 days apart. And I thought, so you're not going to do the Camino, Molly, you little wimp? So I started training. I set it 18 months out so I could get rehabbed. And a week before I was to leave, I did a long 15-mile hike to make sure I could do it. Yeah. I was going to do the first week with my friend Renee. We arranged that, and then I did the rest alone. And we both wanted to know we could do 15 miles, before we left. So a week before we did it, I woke up the next morning and my foot hit the floor and I dropped. I had pulled a hamstring and couldn't walk. And we were leaving in 6 days.
Oh my goodness.
So I called, Patrick had moved to South Carolina in the meantime. And he had been my cheerleader through all of this, telling me what to pack, what not to pack, how to train. He was the guy that first told you about the Camino, right? Right. And he was going to be a couple days behind me to let me do it alone. But he and his friend wanted to return. So they were going to give me space and be 2 or 3 days behind. And I called him on the third day after getting all this therapy from my friends. And it wasn't much better. And I called him. I said, you won't believe what I'm about to tell you. And I told him, I can't even walk up my steps. I can't walk the Pyrenees. And he said, oh, I'm sorry. You must have mistaken me for someone who would buy this story. You're going. Now, maybe you won't walk right away. There's transport. You can keep up with Renee. But think about it, Molly. The reason you're doing this is to be bigger than your injuries. Of course, you're going to be dished this last minute. How serious, how committed are you to this?
Yep.
And he said, would you rather be in your kitchen pouting a week from now or be in Spain letting it heal and you start walking when it's time? I went, wow, you're right. So I limped onto the plane, Igor, my dragging leg.
Yeah.
Just shaking my head saying, I cannot believe.
Okay, so I gotta say, after that first day, what was going through your mind after you make that climb and you succeed?
I had to miss the Pyrenees.
Okay.
So I wasn't healed yet.
Okay, so what did you?
So Renee walked. Here she signed up for something. She didn't even know what the Camino was.
Right.
I know Linda arranged from the other side for Renee to do the first week with me. We're on the plane. She said, what exactly is this again?
Oh,
no. She knew, she had read enough. She knew what to pack. But so I had to send my friend up to the Pyrenees. I said, I'll meet you in Orison.
Okay.
I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I found a ride in St.
Excellent.
John.
Excellent.
And I learned more. Angels showed up on my ride so we spent the night, we had a reservation in Orson.
Okay.
And spent the night. So I at least got to meet my walking family that I would eventually have as my walking family. And when she left, and I got to see the Pyrenees from a van and, from sleeping up there. But it was really hard to know. I had trained for 2 years to walk the Pyrenees, and I was missing them. Yeah. So when we got to Roncesvalles, I felt pretty good. I had been doing a lot of therapy myself on my legs. And so I started walking from there.
Well, I think that's one of the traditional places where a lot of Spaniards will start.
Yeah, I've heard that. So I didn't feel so wimpy.
Exactly. It's not.
It was a big lesson for me I had 2 angels meet with me, just run into me when I was up there at the picnic table at Orison, waiting for my ride after Renee left, who sat down and pretty much said, you need to stop this belief that if you don't do the Pyrenees, you haven't done a Camino.
That's right.
He said has nothing to do with it. You weren't meant to do the Pyrenees. This is a marathon, not a sprint. And your lessons obviously are waiting for you in the long haul, not here where you would have blown it. If you had pushed it, you could have ruined the rest of your trip and blown your hamstring. And you weren't supposed to be here. Your lessons are waiting for you out there. I'm like, oh, thank you. Yeah. So that's how I started, with this belief of, this is my Camino. I get it. This is how my Camino's going to look. I missed the Pyrenees. The first day I was able to walk almost 10 miles, and then my hamstring shut down. And I said, Renee, I got to stop. She said, okay. So I called a taxi and went the rest of the way to Zubiri.
Yeah.
And was good from then on. I had some hard days where I thought I couldn't even think of Santiago. It was just, well, I'd make it through today.
Well, and I am just sitting here right now. I have to skip ahead after hearing this lead up.
I know.
After hearing this lead up, this lead up of, what you had to do in order to go.
Right.
Right. And then you get there, you have the injury right before. I've got to ask you, I got to skip to the end of book 1. What did it feel like when you walked out of that tunnel in Santiago and entered the square? What?
Well, I'll tell you. You would think I'd be elated.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a letdown. Wasn't that. I was in a zone of just this calm. We did it. And we, meaning my body and me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a very calm celebration in my heart. It wasn't until 2 times I shipped things to Santiago during the trip.
Mm-hmm.
Once from St. John, when I realized it's just too much stuff. Then again in Pamplona.
Yeah.
And so all this stuff was waiting for me. So I better make it to Santiago because I got some good stuff in there. Right?
No choice.
Right. And so when I went to get that and I took it up, I got a private room. When I opened up, one of the things, where are they? See these earrings? I even brought them down. I don't know if you can see them, but they're Mother Mary earrings that they gave me when we arrived in St. John.
Oh, turn them just a little bit. Yeah, and hold them up a little higher. There we go. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, they have a weight to it because it has a stone. And she gave them to me when we arrived, and because she knows I have a special attachment to Mother Mary. And when we were weeding through all my stuff and hers in our hotel, or hostel in St. John, like this has to go and that has to go. And we threw them all in a suitcase that I would ship to Santiago. And we got to these earrings and she said, Molly, I love these. I know you love them. I gave them to you, but they'll be waiting for you in Santiago. I'm like, but she was the packing police. And we agreed that when she said something had to go and it wasn't crucial, it had to go. I'm like, oh, okay. And I said goodbye to my Mary earrings. Well, and there were a couple other things I let go of. And it was really about, as you know, letting go of stuff.
Right.
And when I got there and opened my suitcase and looked at everything I had packed and thought I could carry, and when I opened these, that's when I fell apart. Because I called on Mary. There was a day I was walking alone and was kind of scared. I was isolated. There were woods. Though I've done a lot of work on the attack over these 40 years, there were a couple of moments I thought, what am I doing out here? What are you doing? You know, you should be with a pack of people.
Right.
And I thought I should have kept my Mary earrings. So I prayed to her in the suitcase. And, you know, I'm working on my book. And whenever I mention her, I call her Mother Mary, who are buried in a suitcase. And I prayed to Mary, but I kind of pictured these earrings, picturing them that I was wearing them as my safety.
Ooh,
and I
like
was never
shield,
afraid again. So yeah, when I got to Santiago and saw these and knew she had helped me through, I just fell apart. I mean, I was so proud of myself, you know, but it took that for me to realize what I had just done. I think I didn't go numb. It had to sink in.
Sure.
So it was about an hour and a half later, I went, oh my God, I did this and I'm alive and I'm not going home in a box. So
Molly, if there's someone watching this right now, there's anybody out there that's really struggling with the idea of going, they're scared. We all have normal fears about walking. You're walking across the country and most people do this as a solo trip, although you end up making a family usually there, but you do walk a lot by yourself. What would you say to someone who's sitting on the fence to encourage them to take that first step?
I think I would first want to assure them of a physical side of this. And that's that when you're out at the starting gate, wherever you start, and you get to choose where you start, there is always a way to find relief. There are always pharmacies. There are taxis. I just don't think once you're out at the starting gate, there is no way to take care of your body. That's what I was afraid of. Like, are they going to helicopter me off a mountaintop? Like, I have a AAA card. Is that going to call a helicopter?
Right.
So I would tell them not to lean on that, but don't think someone shoots the starting gun and you don't stop until Santiago without support. There's a lot of support when you're in trouble. I mean, I would never have taken a taxi or a bus because I was tired,
Right.
You hit walls and you work through them. But for when my leg would not move, yeah, I took a taxi. I did that 3 times. The other thing I think I would tell them is this isn't like walking at home. When I went for a hike here at home for 2 or 3 hours, I'd be on ice when I got home. And so when I thought of walking 5 to 8 hours a day, I thought, are you kidding me?
Right.
Where's the ice? And I knew I wouldn't have it. I didn't think I would. I was shocked at the energy on the Camino that keeps pushing you forward. You hit a wall and something says, go a little bit further, go a little bit further, go a little bit further. Before you know it, you're at your destination. So you can't look at it as 500 miles. You look at it, can you do 5 more miles this day? How about 2 more? Can you do 2 more? And there's this energy of the Camino, this so many people are going in the same directions. It's almost like they're drafting,
Yeah.
that it pulls you along. It is not like walking at home. Do not compare that. It's nothing like that. I was shocked. So I would just say, make your plan, go, and know that it will work out.
Great tips.
I can do it. If I can have a successful Camino, whatever that meant to me, anyone can do that.
I love that, Molly. Now you are working on your book, and now it all makes sense to me, because I think at one time you told me what your working title was. So I wonder if do you want to share?
Well, it's an accident waiting to happen with undone stamped over it. So I don't know what the tagline will be yet.
Yeah.
I have to say something probably about the Camino. And another friend said, but it was so much about music and you fine-tuning your life too. And so, God, it's going to be a really long tagline. I don't know what it will be, but
what made you decide to write a book?
I sure hadn't planned it during the shutdown. I came back, had kind of a hard fall with some things that came up where I felt a great loss, and didn't share my Camino a whole lot that fall. And I was still processing it. And just as I was ready to start sharing it, the shutdown happened.
Right.
So writing the book was my way of saying, let's revisit this. What just happened? Because I had some magic happen. Linda showed up, my friend who died, she showed up. I swear I heard her feet in the gravel next to me for about 10 days. I felt her next to me. I was shocked. She helped get me out of a couple tight spots. I'm not one, and Michael showed up. I had a rock, that the place where we spread Michael's ashes.
Yeah.
I found it was at the base of a bristlecone pine, and it's a song that he sang. He's a well-known musician from Nashville.
Yeah.
And that was a song he did. And I found a rock, this really pretty sparkly rock that day, and I kept it. And I never got to tell Michael I was doing the Camino. And it was he who was instrumental, not just Linda, but it was Michael. Do I have time to tell probably the coolest Michael story?
Yeah.
When Michael was dying, he called me. He was in hospice, but they thought he probably had another 8-10 months. And he said, the hardest thing is I can't read anymore. When I put my head down, it cuts off my oxygen. He had one of those tubes, he said. And so I can't read. And what I would love to read one more time is The Alchemist.
Oh.
And he had given me that book 10 years before, and we both really related to it. He saw himself as Santiago.
Right.
But I'm the wander archetype strongly. And we were like two wanderers archetypes out in the world seeking, So we both bonded over that book. And I said, well, then I guess the only thing to do is I'll read it to you over the phone. He was in Minneapolis. He had left Nashville. He was in Minneapolis and I was in Colorado. And I said, we'll just read a chapter at a time. So I read it to him over the phone every couple nights. I'd read him a chapter and we'd talk about how that chapter sat with us. Like, what did it mean? And one of the best conversations we had, and I got to know Michael more during these weeks of reading this book than I knew of him, and I knew him for about 26 years. He said, don't do what I did. He said, the alchemist told Santiago that he had to walk the rest of the desert alone in order to find his personal legend. And he said, I know what my desert was, and it wasn't music. He said, sure, it was my destiny, and I've practice my art, and I'm excellent at it. He's one of the finest guitar players, classical guitar. He studied in Barcelona. And but he said, that was the easy part. Traveling and being a musician my whole life, that was easy. I was being called to find my heart, and I never did. I skated through it all. I stayed for the easy part, and I left for the hard part in every relationship. He said, I'd like to think I truly love my boys, but you'd have to ask them. He said, but a woman's love, I never could take it in. My heart's like this steel trap. And he said, don't do that. Don't do that. And he said, I don't know what your desert is, but see what you're being called to cross, what you're supposed to deal with, because that's your legend. And I thought about it. And when this thing happened, when I was on the boat that day, I thought my desert is to befriend my body, because it's been me and it, like opposing, you better behave so we can have fun. We were never a team. And I thought my desert is to work with my body on the Camino and let it call the shots. It won't be what the guidebook says. It won't be what anyone else says my Camino should look like. My body will call its own shots. And that was our teamwork. And at the end, we were buds. So that was my desert. And so Patrick, who was 3 days behind me, knew what had happened about my reading this book with Michael and what it meant to me. And he texted me. It was when I had a blister. Later, I would find out it was badly infected. And in fact, it almost stopped my trip. But I kept walking on because everyone else's was getting better, right? And so Patrick texted me. He said, tomorrow night, you're going to be in Valoria someplace. And there's a special place there you're going to want to reserve a spot in. Said it's an albergue that has, I think, 10 beds. And it's owned by best friends of Paulo Coelho, who wrote The Alchemist.
Oh, wow.
And I just lit up. And he said, I was there 4 years ago when I did it. It's magic. You need to reserve now. And he said, and don't be concerned about the wife of the owner. She can be difficult. Don't let that, And I'm like, okay, I can deal with that. I used to be a mediator. I can deal with difficult people. So I limp into town, and it was like this Hamlet. It was like from The Hobbit. I don't know if you remember walking through Valoria.
What's the name of the albergue?
The stage right before San Juan.
Do you remember the name of the albergue?
Yeah, in fact, I wrote it down. The whole town is Valoria de, Rioja. How do you say that?
Rioja?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's Refugio, and the couple's names, Ocasio and Orietta. So they named their Refugio.
Okay, got it. All right. Well, I'll put a link in the show notes for that. Okay.
Good. Because so I show up, Ocasio checks me in, and I walked in, and like, you're not in Kansas anymore. There's this flute music playing in incense, not too strong, just right, a fountain. I walked in and just thought, angels live here. There's a wood burn. It had been raining and it was a cold day. There's a wood burning stove going in the living room. And so he said, we'll have dinner at 7 and you can go choose your bed. You're the first one here, and welcome. I thought, well, that was pretty wonderful. And so I asked him what was for dinner, and that would tell. There's one cafe in town, a little tiny thing. And I said, that'll tell me if I should eat there because I have an interesting diet. He said, what do you need to avoid? And I said, dairy and any grain. I can't have any grain. Made the Camino tough. I lost 12 pounds.
Yeah, I bet.
he said, yeah, we're having lentils, a big green salad. You won't be able to have the soup or the rice. I said, I am so thrilled with lentils and a green salad. I've been craving something green.
Right.
I said, I'm happy. He said, great. So I left, came back a couple hours later. I walk in and I hear a washing machine going and a dryer. I thought, oh, good, I can do a wash. So I opened the door and I peeked in and I took one step in and I hear this, what are you doing? And I backed out and it was Orietta. And she points to the door, which says in Spanish, no entrance.
No.
And I said, oh, I am so sorry. I said, I'm like a stupid American who can't read that. And she just, we let it go. And then, so I kind of saw what Patrick was talking about. I could deal with that, no problem. I mean, she had created an angel house, right? So I know she's a wonderful person. So at dinner, they're passing everything around and I passed along the rice. She went, oh no, help yourself. And I said, I don't eat grains, you know, but I'm thrilled with lentils. And she got very upset and said, you should have told me, I could have made you potatoes. And I'm like, I am so happy with this. And Acacia said, oh honey, I'm so sorry. I forgot to tell you that she told me when she checked in. So she felt badly about that. And I thought, we're not doing well here. So then she said, how did everyone find us here? And before dinner, I had walked through the place and there's pictures of Paulo everywhere.
Right.
And he has stayed there. He gave them, when the Eltress or the alchemist did so well, he helped fund this, they're making this place so beautiful. So so yeah, I knew Michael was with me as I'm looking at all these pictures. It was the first time I felt him with me since he died.
And is that where you laid his ashes? Were there?
No, we had laid those up in the mountains under the brown pine where I got his rock. Well, I had taken his rock with me on the Camino. I was going to leave it at the Iron. I did plan to leave it at the Iron Cross. So anyway, everyone went around and said how they had heard about this place because it's not a normal stopping spot. And it came to me and I told them about Michael and reading The Alchemist to him and what that meant to me and what the book meant to Michael and that he had passed away and that Patrick knew what this book meant to me and he knew about your place and he knew it would mean a lot to me to stay here and it would connect me to Michael. And I said, and it has. Well, I look over and they're both in tears. And I said, wow. Can we tell Paulo this? And I said, Michael would be doing a happy dance if he knew you were going to tell the author of his favorite book that it changed his life. And they said, we will. So now we're best buds. And of course, I realized I was just sensitive when I walked in. My blister was killing me. She's just a very animated person. Sure. And it was just such a good lesson for me of Patrick had planted this seed. I read it with some judgment of, oh, she doesn't like me. She was the most amazing thing. The next morning, I knew I could not walk 18 miles on this blister. I knew I was in trouble with it. And so I had all my maps spread out and I knew I was supposed to be out by 8. And I said, you know, Orietta, I will be out by 8. I just need to find where I can get a bus sometime today. And she said, oh, I'll help you. And she said, this town, she pointed to it. And she said, I asked her how far away that was. She said, oh, about 9 miles. Okay, I'll do what I have to do. And I said, you know what I hate about this? I feel like I'm cheating. And I told her what I had to do with the Pyrenees. I said, that wasn't cheating. My leg couldn't do it.
Right.
And I had to do that. That was the agreement with my body. Here, I'm just in agony and I feel, and she pounded her hand on the table. She said, you stop that right now. I'm like, what? She said, too many pilgrims, and this is in her, they're from, not Brazil. Oh, I'm drawing a blank. Argentina. I'm drawing a blank. But she had this beautiful broken English. But she said, too many pilgrims think walking the Camino that the only tool is their feet. This has nothing to do with feet. The Camino is a state of mind. The Camino is a channel of love. And if it takes finding a bus to love yourself until the next stage, then you're doing your Camino. Your feet have nothing to do with it. Do you understand? I'm like, yes, ma'am. And I'm in tears. And she said, so you get on that bus in 9 miles and you hold your head high and you ask the Camino, who am I supposed to meet on this bus? Why did you put me on this bus? Because I know there's a reason. She said, and the Camino will tell you. God bless you. And she gave me a hug and I walked out the door.
Wow.
Yeah. Changed everything for me.
I love that story, Mom.
From that point on. And I'm still in touch with them. I got in touch with them during the shutdown and they're doing okay. And I don't know if they're open now. I'm guessing they must be. And they want to read my book because I had to ask them if I could use their real names in the book.
Oh, that's great.
And they said, well, you better send it to us. So now I have to be careful how I relay. I mean, she knows we had that funny rough start with the washing machine.
Makes it a great story.
Yeah.
Well, Molly, I think unfortunately we are at our hour.
I know.
But I feel like that's a really great way to end it. That was a lovely story. And I think people are really going to enjoy that. I know I have. And Molly, this has been such a delight to hear your story and the things that you've overcome and how your Camino is still going. You know, you've got your book you're writing, and we look forward. Please let us know when the book is published.
Okay.
So we can let everybody in the community know. And I will have a link. I'll have your link for your website, of course, on the show notes, and we'll have the albergue link and some other things we've talked about. But thank you for coming to the Camino Cafe.
Thank you for what you do. It gives
you're
us
welcome.
a voice that not everyone wants to keep hearing about it in our lives if they haven't done it. So I got to say it.
Right. And that's part of the reason I started the Camino Cafe, because I know that I want to talk about it all the time, but I do notice my friends, my family, their faces, their eyes going to glaze over like, oh, the Camino again. But, I think once you've walked, you do want to keep talking about it. And I think it's important for us to get these stories out there, because I hope that through hearing your story that when people hear Pilgrim stories, I think it makes them want to walk, or if we've already walked, it reminds us of maybe things that now we need to go back and process or whatever. So I think it's really powerful to have these stories, and thank you for your vulnerability and coming and sharing your story and letting us all share in what you've learned, and that will motivate us to continue down our Camino path. So thank you so much.
You bet.
And I just want to thank everyone for watching and listening. Again, if you can give us a review, a thumbs up, subscribe, do all those things. We'll have another episode coming soon. Molly, stay on so you and I can say goodbye to each other. But for everyone watching or listening, buen camino.
Buen camino.
Las cosas que necesito en la vida ya están aquí. I am free. Free as a bird now, with my feathered wings. I am free, free as a bird now, with my feathered wings.